Welcome back to another LinuxGameCast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews and how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Desura addresses unpaid game developers, but only after a 5-month-old thread on Reddit was picked up by the press. Victor Vran enters early access. Prepare to face sunglass-wearing dancing skeletons that infect you with a boogie. And Carmageddon Reincarnation is out of early access. Now let's pin these fuckers down on a release date of that promised Linux port.
One of the best performing games under Linux gets a huge boost. Borderlands the pre-sequel gets a big patch. Unvanquished finally fixes number 688. At last, our long national nightmare is over. And Leadworks unveils its new content distribution system for games that nobody plays.
Valve only learns the hard way. We've seen it time and time again. NVIDIA keeps supporting their currently existent hardware. In the meantime, AMD is pushing out for a beta for 2 games that aren't available for Linux. And finally, the lead Play on Linux developer has some words. He'd like to explain to you how a Java app sandbox is pointless.
I'm Ben Stone here at LGC Actual, mixing the bits, doing the things, all under Linux 100% true, and joining me is my friend, my companion, Master Huang up in Canada.
Hi.
And all the way from Space Portugal, you know him, the Plageman Rizzo himself.
Yeah.
With his
Say my
deceiving,
name.
blinky ears. And
He's
together
thinking
with
very
Chaperone
hard.
Dynamic, we form a bit of a cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we'd like to see what's going on in each other's life organs this week. I'm going to start out because I tried the History Channel, brah. It didn't work out so well. No. I am a documentary junkie, and I really like watching documentaries. Oh, I've watched documentaries on canned meat. I mean, I'll watch anything if it's well produced. I headed over to the History Channel site, and they're like, oh, we have an Android app. And I was like, okay. And it's like, watch all of our videos. And I installed it, went into the kitchen to start cooking. You know, you can do all that magic. Played it, loaded up, wrong aspect ratio, and I was like, oh, watch me some Modern Marvels. I don't care, it looked decent enough. First commercial break. Get one commercial. I was like, fair enough. No issue. Second commercial break. I quit after 2 minutes of commercials. I was like, nope, uninstall, went back to YouTube, and finished watching it. You don't know how to internet History Channel, but then again, in my day, you were called the Hitler Channel, and that's all that mattered. J-Man, what's up, baby?
I'm not saying it was aliens, but aliens. No, nothing of real interest happened to me this week. Apparently, finding a brick in my air conditioner box and having to compile some sort of crappy game that won't run well has exhausted my source of interesting shit that occurred. I ordered stuff from Monoprice, though, so next week I'm going to be rolling in cables. Woo!
And for me, well, it's been a pretty busy week. Company is actually starting to sell stuff now, and we have proper clients, so to speak, other companies. So I've been pretty busy. I did manage to squeeze in a couple of hours of RoboCraft because there was a new patch, and that thing's been sucking whatever free time I have.
Yes. But you know what else doesn't have free time? Or free anything for that matter?
I don't know, is it GPL friendly?
It is not. It's our Steam
Linux
Update of the week.
All right. Wow. Awkward silence on the radio. We're live, ladies and gentlemen.
The Steam database on Twitter has just released a couple of latest Steam beta builds that suggest that there are new currencies making their way onto the Steam client in the future. And see, kids, this is what happens when you try to limit people's ability to buy games from other regions. You'll get a pretty grim reminder of all the regions you don't currently support. Because I'm guessing no one at the company thought that, yeah, what about all those countries which we don't officially support in the client, and they've just been buying the games from whichever store's the closest?
What about Tanzania, man? They got
Where's
the one guy who's
Tanzania?
downloading Steam games.
It was
and
almost
he needs
a
way to
month.
pay.
It took them almost a month after they've introduced this whole do not buy games outside of your area thing. And all I can say about this is Valve time.
It is pretty much Valve time. One thing I've learned, I'm glad this showed up. There is a difference between the Hong Kong dollar and the won.
Yes.
Because I happen to know somebody in Hong Kong right now who does travel to mainland China and gets pissed off because they can readily exchange things.
Oh yeah, well you know that Valve time is Valve money, right?
Yeah, but, you know, they need to work on it, kind of like Leadworks.
Oh yeah, Leadworks has a brilliant idea. Because you see, so the demand to play their games is so great, and installing them is just so difficult. They have a Steam-powered game launcher for Leadworks so that people can publish their games directly to Leadworks. But there's a problem here. Are there actually enough Leadworks games to warrant this? No.
I did a little bit of looking around. Apparently, there are currently 13 Leadworks games.
Okay, here's another question. Can you name one of them off the top of your head?
I hate you.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is exactly the problem. I've been screaming this for months. Leadworks does not have a killer app. They do not have a game that pushes the limits of their engine and looks awesome, plays awesome, and says to every other developer out there, hey man, check out our shit, it's amazing. But no, now they have to compete with Unity 5 and their personal edition shit, Unreal 4, and their just complete market dominance. And it just seems like Leadworks is scrambling to get people to use their damn toolset, despite the fact that there are so many better alternatives out there. Godot, even. Godot offers comparable functionality and is free.
2D, they're still working, actually, Godot, you might know about it, open source. They're holding off on upgrading the 3D systems. They're waiting on Vulkan, which probably is a smart move. But
That makes sense.
you got to remember that Leadworks, like the day after Steam went, we're allowing mod developers to charge. Leadworks is like, that's brilliant. We're doing that too. No, it's just a bad idea. All this does is allow you to play your game, or actually put your game on Steam and kind of bypass the greenlight early access and play it in a Lua player. Yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea, P-Man. What do you think?
It's earlier access. That way, you just make the bare minimum that you can possibly call a game, and you push it onto the Leadworks client thing, and there it is. And then people will start complaining that there's even more ways to get shitty games on Steam, because we really need those.
Well, it's you know how you have the Unity ghetto on what was once Desura, but we'll get to that later. We have the Leadworks ghetto that no good games escape from because there aren't any. But speaking of a company that actually puts out a quality product that gets results, this is from the Game Agent blog. The link to this is in our show notes. Game Agent is the Aspire storefront website. They have a new patch for Borderlands, the pre-sequel, that has a ton of bug fixes. You can check out their list of changes over there. But the big noteworthy one is they've improved performance. Now, Ven, you've said that for the longest time, this is one of the best performing games under Linux.
This was something I would actually hold up to people, because especially the people playing games on Windows is like, wow, 4K. You can't game on 4K. I was like, come on, come over to the house. Let me show you this. And fire up the pre-sequel. Put it in 4K with a 980, granted, and we have a 60Hz 4K monitor. Steady 50 hertz. I mean, it doesn't really waver from that. And I'm like, oh my god, that's amazeballs.
I gave it a shot today. I reinstalled the pre-sequel, enabled the GL threaded optimizations, and at 4K with everything turned up, I was shocked to learn that it runs at a solid 59 frames a second, like with everything turned up. That is at 4K. That is on a single 980. That is astounding. That is a great performing game.
Yeah, but they're doing this because when the game first came out, someone on the PC Gaming Wiki put
this is why they're doing it, Pedro, because they read a blog that no one's ever heard of. That's why.
No, the PC Gaming Wiki is actually reasonably famous. so to speak. And someone actually did the comparison between the Windows version and the Linux version. And the Linux version with the GL threaded optimizations, if you were using an NVIDIA card, it did come close to Windows, but it was still slower. And there were actually some people that complained, I used to be able to play it in Windows at this much frames, and now it's a bit lower. And
that your eyes can totally see. Because
so Pedro, you got to answer me this. So they're comparing apples and wrenches. Wouldn't it be a more fair comparison between the Mac port and the Linux port, since they're using OpenGL and not DirectX?
It would be, but then again, Mac's kind of stuck.
That probably wouldn't have made the graphs look as big,
3.2.
and they couldn't have sold as many ads against it, saying, "Oh, look at all the YOLO difference." And
Then again, Mac is stuck on OpenGL 3.2, and in Linux, we can actually afford to have OpenGL 4.5, say, for instance.
No,
So,
it's metal. It's metal, brah. You can totally write your render in metal and have it restricted to that one.
But
platform.
yeah, there were some people that complained about the performance of the Linux port, and now they've pretty much fixed it. It didn't really need fixing, but
Victor Vran. Victor Vran is the isometric action RPG where your skill is just as essential as your character build and the gear. Experience intense. All right, action RPG, right?
Yeah, sort of.
ARPG?
Hack and slasher.
Yep.
This is what I imagine Diablo-ish type game.
Yes.
Diablo-y. It's sort of like a poor man's Torchlight or a Bloodborne or something like that.
Yeah, kind of like this. This clocks in at 19.99 wet stinky caches. In all fairness, P-Man, they sent us some keys, right?
They did.
And I've been playing quite a bit of it. It's kind of a tricksy one. I mean, the game looks polished and baked, but it's still in extremely heavy development. And I've actually had 2 scenarios that just nope to me being in places I should have not been. And I'm kind of wondering where are the legendary drops for the items, because I've got none. And sweet mother of fuck, let me save in the middle of a dungeon, because if you look at my Steam player profile, I have 20 hours logged, but I've only played about 8 because I leave it paused. Simply because I'm in the middle of a dungeon that I don't want to lose all my progress on, and I got other shit to go do. But J-Man, you had some words.
Yeah, no, I gave it a shot. It's actually pretty fun, all things considered. One interesting bit, Ven, you've been playing this with the controller, haven't you?
Yes, sir. It worked for me with the Exclusion controller out of the box. And this is like Torchlight. I never considered it, and I tried it with Torchlight, and I was like, yeah. And I tried this. Just that's how I start with a Linux game with a controller. I reach over here, and I poke at things, and if something moves, I'm like, okay, well, I'll pick you up. That's the challenge.
And it sort of plays like Forced, if you remember that. So it would work with a controller, but I plugged in the Turbo Seizure controller and the Hori controller. Nothing.
So
I was playing it with the keyboard and the mouse. Maybe there's some setting I didn't turn on, or I don't know. I didn't really look too far into it. But yeah, it's certainly very playable. It runs well at 1080p at 4K. Don't try to run it at 4K.
Well, P-Man's going to tell us about some things you might want to disable, but it's $19.99, single player, multiplayer, and co-op, and full controller support. But P-Man, tell us about some performance tuning we might have.
Yeah,
to
there
do.
was a performance, because earlier in the week, it was in the Hangouts. You were like, yeah, I'm getting about 50 FERPs,
max
1080p. Yeah. And I'm like, that's weird.
Pedro waltzes in. He's like, I got a 970. I'm getting 120. I was like, Pedro, you're high.
Yeah. I'm on a 970, and the only place that my frames per second only ever drop below 60 is in the hub.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
the hoop.
What the hell? So then Ven sends me his screenshot and asks me to send him my screenshot, and he does a little comparison. He's like, wait, what's your MSAA level at? And I'm like, ×4, because I got 2 1080p screens, and at 1080p ×8 MSAA doesn't really make any sense because you can't see it. And Ven just puts it back down to ×4. Oh, that'll do it.
There we go. Then everything went from like you know, it was playable, like 30 to 50 to 112, 117 constantly.
Yep. But yeah, barring
but,
the whole placeholder loading screens that they have big bold letters saying placeholder, I'd say it is a very, very competent early access game. There are many finished games on Steam right now that are not this
just
competent.
puts them to shame.
You know, speaking of which.
All right. Fine, we're going to do this. So, we have a long and sordid history with this game because, well, you're wondering what it is. It's Carmageddon Reincarnation. One of the first games, actually the first game both Pedro and I backed on Kickstarter back in 2012. And it's out. I mean, it's out of early access. You can buy it for $29.99 wet stinky cashes, full release day at 1997, blah 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 blah. All these screenshots, lies. They're all lies. Because you actually have to run it on a graphic level that you can't really run it on. But what I want to know is, because I said on the Kickstarter that, you know, first of all, that, you know, the game was going to be released at the end of 2012, right?
Yes.
Then they would start working on the Linux development. Well, it's 2014, mid 2014-ish, and so Pedro, when are we going to see this Linux port?
Well, let's see. They said that they would start work after the Windows version came out. So I don't know. Tomorrow?
I have no dog in this race, so I got nothing to say about it.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit here because, wow, they, you know, before we even get to this, I need to address something, because there is a Linux thread. There is a Linux thread in their Steam forums that says, you know, what about Linux support? Now that it's out, they legitimately need to provide us with a time frame of when we can expect the Linux port. Because what is this, a Unity game, right?
Yeah.
No, it's their own engine.
Oh, good lord, that's even going to be worse. That's actually even more terrifying. But there's a guy in the forums that says, please, guys, don't forget that we contributed to Kickstarter too, and be super nice and fart rainbows everywhere. That doesn't work. We have proved time and time again, being super ultra nice and begging them after we give them money to beg them to give us what we paid for doesn't cut it. You know, we really need to be what's his name, the devil from
I'm the devil, biatch. What
Pick of Destiny. But what I was getting to is they have already pulled the, just for Windows, the performance and optimization. We're a small indie team and don't expect it to work really good. The frame rates are really bad and it looks a little bit outdated. We're not a AAA studio.
We got some lovely concept art to show you.
Concept
That's what we thought.
we got gifts, but yeah, I mean, you can't judge us, man, because we're just like these little guys, and you know, we've been working hard as we can. I'm just like, wow, you're really pulling. We're a small indie team, so you can't judge the quality of our game code. They are, Brad, and you know that's kind of sad. It's really kind of sad, gentlemen, because you know a couple of fresh-faced college grads delivered a better game, cross-platform, on time with the alpha and the beta, with a fraction of the budget, $160K Kickstarter. This game is called Distance. I suggest you go pick it up because it is all those things I just said. Versus Carmageddon's $625,000 Kickstarter. And with that money alone, they should have been able to make a better game in 2 years. Right, P-Man? I mean,
it would make sense.
But didn't they get a little bit of, maybe a little
Yeah,
extra wet
they
sticky?
did.
Maybe like
I actually
another...
didn't know the exact amount until we started talking.
No. I mean, it was like $20,000, right?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, so maybe they got another 100,000, 200,000 bucks.
Okay, makes sense.
After they finished the Kickstarter, so they could finish it.
Carmageddon got an extra $100,000, $2,000. That seems fine, you know.
Wrong! They got $3.5 million of angel investment from random people. So that is $4 million, $4 million wet stinky cash that they could have put into a game, and they under-delivered on it. Because they're spending more time rolling around in piles of cash than they were actually
Actually,
developing the
that's
game.
where I think you're wrong, J-Man. They were spending more time rolling around the $4 billion. Rolling out all those iOS and Android ports of the game that nobody ever fucking asked for.
Yep.
Then, like, oh, we're going to try to make a game, and no. All right. It was just insulting to read their post on Steam saying, but we're a small indie team with $3.5 million in fun. Don't you fucking insult real small indie studios, you fucking hacks. I mean, seriously, I'm not a betting man, but I'd wager that your angel investment or whatever, your backers, said something along the lines of, just go ahead and ship the shite so maybe we can recover some of our money, because we're not going to get it back.
Me out.
I don't
Me
think
out.
it's going to make $3.5 million bucks.
I don't mean to be catty about it.
Oh, okay. So this is Cat Lateral Damage. This is a game in which you get to play an asshole cat, like my asshole cat, who likes to run around and knock shit over. And wow.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we were talking about this in the pre-show. I did not actually watch the trailer for this game, so I did not see that coming.
But
anyway,
at the end of the trailer,
it
is where it gets
is
interesting.
basically like a Viscera cleanup detail, the Shadow Warrior game spin-off, where you basically have to mop up all the limbs and blood from the game from Shadow Warrior, except now you're a cat just destroying shit. And
yeah, but
they
at
don't
the end
have
of
a
the
price.
trailer,
They say it's going to unlock on the 27th of May, which is 4 days away from the time of this recording. So 2 or 3 days by the time you actually watch this episode. Apparently, it's recommended by curators at PAX East. I don't know. This just seems kind of dumb. If they charge more than $2 for this, I will be legitimately vexed.
I saw the trailer, I listened to the trailer, and at the end they're like, oh, and it will be available for Windows, Mac, Linux, and Ouya.
Pedro, you got to realize anyone can go pick
Really?
up a you are at their local Goodwill or salvage store for 99 cents. That's brilliant.
Pretty much. But even then, I mean, Ouya? Really? You're wasting time and resources?
It's an Android. It's just an Android port.
What is it you never heard of it? Collateral Damage is a first-person destructive cat simulator where you play as a cat. All right. Indie, simulation, action, casual, funny.
Be an asshole cat. That's it.
On
Up next,
Unity. Yeah, it takes all the boxes. Congratulations, you get a bite-sized Snickers.
All right, up next, Das Uber Game.
Yahoo.
Das Uber Game. And it is, or so they claim, a free, open-source, multi-purpose multiplayer game.
Mm-hmm.
It's an FPS. It's a
Pedro,
FPS
just
you're
the other
pushing.
day I was thinking there's one thing Linux needs, and it's another unfinished
Either an FPS,
first-person shooter.
either an FPS or another freaking retro hipster pixel 2D platformer. One of those. We don't have any of those.
You look at the game description and you immediately think, so they're trying to be another Sauerbraten or Open Arena.
Yeah,
Because we need that.
except it's done in the Torque 3D engine.
Oh, so it's done with an outdated engine. Right.
Yeah, a very, very outdated engine.
Just
But-
like Open Arena. Ha ha! Dangly parts.
That said, I did listen to this trailer as well, and the moment he starts reloading the gun, I'm like, I've heard of that before. Where have I heard of that before? Looked up a couple of videos on YouTube of FPS games that I used to play, and I'm like, oh, that's the reloading sound for the AK-47 on Counter-Strike Source. So you're attempting to push a game through Greenlight on Valve's platform using nicked assets from their game. Congratulations.
Well,
You're a
this is supposed to be
special kind
open
of
source. I
stupid.
mean, it's good to see that they're open source, multi-purpose, multiplayer, multi-hashtag, multi. We don't need this.
We really don't.
I mean,
but it's priced to sell as free. So,
Well, it's on Greenlight, so it's not priced to sell it
still on
all right
Greenlight.
now. So take that with a grain of chainsaw. But coming up, something a bit more ounce and wob. Crypt of the Necro Dancer. What is it? Well, imagine if you were forced to pay money for a hipster pixel, like, what would you call it? Roguelike dungeon crawler type game?
It's Rogue
Rogue
Legacy meets
Revolution.
DDR.
and then forced to move in beats, and you didn't immediately kill yourself, and you still played it. Well, if you didn't, this game right here adds a new texture pack to Crypt of the Mega Dancer, a Mega Man total conversion of Crypt of the Necro Dancer. And, somehow I was looking at this, thinking, why do I own this game? Apparently they sent us a key at some point or something like that.
It's also been in a bunch of Humble Bundles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I don't think much as I'm a huge fan of Mega Man, and these guys are going to get sued because they just straight up ripped the
assets.
Download this while you can is what I'm saying, if you're a fan of it. I don't see how this is going to make me want to play it anymore, because rhythm-based dungeon... I was like, Jesus. I mean, if you're really into that game, just move to Portland, man.
I don't know. It's like, it's an interesting mod. Someone was drunk enough to say, I want to implement all of Mega Man 1 in Crypt of the Necro Dancer.
There's more Mega Man 2.
And apparently there was more alcohol to be had afterwards because they followed through with it. But I hate rhythm games with a passion.
That's totally Mega Man 2, by the way. It's not
Thousand Sun. Yeah, and...
Well, I'm sorry, there was
I have no desire to
Airman.
play this whatsoever, Mega Man or no. Yeah, I have nothing else to say.
But, yeah, it's price hill. As
It's a mod.
free. I mean, if you
It's
want it, get it
literally
through
a
the
mod.
workshop, and it'll be a brilliant thing. I couldn't bother to download it because I tried to play that game so many times. Because everyone's like, you need to play this. This is a brilliant game, and you don't understand gaming. I was like, no, I don't understand having a beard, making snide remarks, sipping my PBR, and riding off on my fucking fixie is what I don't understand, Brad. What's
I think
up
that's
next?
just because you don't own a fixie. You got the rest of that down, though.
Awkward silence before the news.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the good old Linuxy news, and in true LGC fashion, we start with some new drivers from NVIDIA. Woohoo! Did you expect anyone else? I didn't either. Yeah, this is the 35209 beta. So it is still a beta. If you don't like to muck around with the beta drivers, you may want to skip this one. It'll be pushed stable soon enough, so keep an eye out for that. The big news over this specific release was that they added a VR swap interval configuration options for those of you that have some form of VR that works with Linux. Fuck you, Facebook. And they've actually added better G-Sync support on a number of different aspects. The changes that they made to the Linux driver are to bring it more in line with the way that the Windows driver works with G-Sync. And they're also fixing wine bugs. The GL_fog.scale now actually scales properly, and it's actually a bug with games like 13 if you were playing them on Wine. So they've actually fixed that, and it's amazing that NVIDIA are actually caring about their hardware and the software that supports said hardware on Linux.
I keep saying, though, that the best way to find weird bugs in your OpenGL implementation is to look at what Wine's doing, because in the effort of translating DirectX system calls to OpenGL calls, you're going to have to do some weird fucked up shit to get that to work. So it's good that they're actually paying attention to that, especially when NVIDIA likes to give out their source code for their driver stack and PhysX and whatnot to big companies like Pixar. They want to make sure that their stack is actually functional and working for whatever shit you throw at it.
I don't know. I mean, I keep saying this is backwards moon universe that we're living in, because we're all running AMD CPUs, and we love the underdog and all that. But on the same side, I hope that was cancer and that you die. We're also faced with AMD, formerly ATI, GPUs, which actually have the goatee in this universe because they're horrible and they're evil and This, like the Oculus, should just be on every card next to the Penguin logo. It's just absolutely miserable. And everyone bitches, but NVIDIA's, even Linux says, fuck you, NVIDIA. Well, here's the thing, Brad. NVIDIA works, and I've been recommending NVIDIA because it gets shit done. I mean,
yeah, they're not the most open source friendly. They're not.
No.
They'll share a bit of the code, a couple of header files here and there. They're not exactly open source friendly. AMD might be, but that's because they don't want to deal with their own drivers. They know the fuck-uppery that went
Pedro,
into that.
what would you possibly know about AMD drivers?
It's not like I
Pumpkins,
used
that's
AMD drivers since 2005 under Linux. So yeah, what the hell do I know?
Yeah, I'm just saying, man. You
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That head is like coconut, empty.
Oh, but yeah.
But
One of the
You know,
things I
not getting-
actually enjoyed, just one more, the very last point that they say, it says, updated the NVIDIA GPU driver to avoid using video memory already in use by the VESA frame buffer. To me, that reads, we're still running damage control on the 970.
3.5.
speaking of getting your money's worth,
Oh man, somebody's in a bit of trouble now, aren't they? This comes from GameSutra.com. You can find all this nastiness in our show notes. But this started out on Reddit. But a little bit of a synopsis here. Desura is not paying developers, but promises a fix. Developers using Desura for digital distribution aren't being paid for the games they've sold through the service. But a new blog post promise super serial swears that they're going to remedy the situation. Yeah. Ever since they've been picked up by bad juju. I mean, and you know, I first read this. This was originally on Our Gaming, not Our Gaming, but
our games.
Our Games. But it kind of blew up about 2 days ago on Indie Gaming, which linked to Our Gaming, and I was like, I didn't double click. I was like, oh, so this is a new thing. Wow, that kind of sucks, but it turns out that this has been going on for 5 months, Brad. I mean, it really...
Since the acquisition, almost.
Pretty much. Let me see if I can get over to what they had to say about this. This morning we've been working hard to address concerns and all that. By the way, our CEO's in the hospital like last week, but it has nothing to do with like... yeah, but we're super sure about paying people and all that. Dude, come on. Even Mike Murderbeck wrote back.
I'll kill you, Dad! And also...
Right. Famously known for threatening to kill Gabe Newell, but no one's ever called the man a liar, so I'll give you this. He said... It took me 4 months to get paid from Desura. I sent multiple emails to every addy I could find, and he had to publicly shame them on Twitter. And several more weeks
as he's off to do.
After that, he finally got his payments. But then he said, here we are, at least 7 or 8 months into the new owner's raid, and this is the first real public statement they've made. Almost a year of developers not being paid, and all we get is, quote-unquote, we're trying to pay people. We're super serial. We promise. I don't know.
This is from our game dev, apparently.
Our game dev.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an actual thing. Let me see if I have that queued up, and I will in a moment. But what makes me kind of sad about this is, you know, this is look at this, 5 months ago. This is
oh man, I have no idea how these guys are going to recover from this. This is huge. This reeks of like shitty management. This should be like priority number 1 is making sure that the people who you make your money off of actually get paid, or else they're going to stop.
I kind of got an idea why they addressed it eventually. I mean, it was a coincidence, mind you.
Coinciding? Well,
But
lay it on me, brother.
Our indie game, I mean, if you search for Desura and you look for news, Desura admits to paying Delves frustration mounts, and Desura addresses Desura and Indie Royale because they own that. Desura addresses Desura not paying developers, and sheer coincidence, completely coincidence, that they released a blog post saying that, yeah, I'm sorry about that. We're getting around to it. It's just something wrong with the automation process. Brad, I don't know. I would be somewhat sympathetic, like I said, if this was something new. This isn't. I mean, when I first read it on Indie Games, 2 days ago, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is like something messed up with their automation system. And it wasn't. I mean, it was completely horrible. And if I had to chance a guess, I would say this whole thing is directly related to the company's finances. Now, I'm just guessing, but I also pray to Flying Spaghetti Monster that it's not the case, since there are low-rent lawyers out there searching the fucking interwebs for situations just like this. And you got to remember, kids, especially in United States, here in the States now, you can do, what would it be called? Small claims, and you don't even need a judge. A court clerk can enter a default judgment without a judge's signature at all if it's a breach of contract, which you joined in with Desura when you said, okay, once I reach my 500 wet stinky minimum, you're going to pay me. And if it's been 4 months, 5 months apparently for some people, and you don't get paid, all you got to do is show up with that and that and that, and unless they show up in court to defend you, you get a default summary. Boom.
See, I don't even know how they're going to recover from this. I don't think they are. Bad juju is just going to be slammed with negative publicity. No one is going to trust their service anymore. And I mean, we tried to like these guys.
Mm-hmm.
We shouted at them at Twitter. They shouted back. They seem to have their head screwed on the shoulders properly. Clearly, they didn't, because they're not actually paying their developers. The very best case scenario I can see coming out of this is everyone worth their salt is going to be leaving Desura, period. There might be a couple people who are staying saying, oh, we support indie gaming, blah, blah, blah. These are going to be these my first Unity game making people who rip off other games and try to sell them on Desura.
I mean, you really have to be the bottom of the barrel not to go for like Humble or God, right?
Than it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and at this point, anyone who's actually read the Desura dev/end user license agreement might be able to answer this for me. Do they actually have a do not participate in a class action lawsuit against us clause in there somewhere? Because if they don't, and if, say, come this time next week, they still haven't paid all the devs everything that they owe them, there is no chance they'll ever make it back from this. Because
it's kind of the terrifying thing for them, I would assume. And it was like, you think getting back to emails is going to be a difficult thing. Ooh, boy. They're already organizing in those two Reddits, those subreddits, to get together to do something about this. And, yeah, I mean, if you think automating something... I was talking to you, J-Man. I said if I had to come up, even with a nightmare database scenario, I would just like, empty, come here, fix this. Then I would integrate it and come up with a new system. It'd probably take me about a week. Right around. You said, what, about a week and a half walking into
week
it?
And a half, depending on what kind of payment systems I got to integrate with. So just because I'm in the thick of this kind of shit, like, as we speak. So
I mean, that's what you do for a living, man.
Yeah, it kind of is, yeah. And it's just all sorts of fail sauce over the place. Coming from the perspective of someone who deals with this on a day-to-day basis, I just cringed when I read this article. It's just like, oh my, there is no recovery from this whatsoever.
You don't fuck with people's money.
You don't fuck with people's money. You can fuck with people's rights. You can fuck with people's opinions. The second you start going after their money, they're gonna just get all mad, and they're gonna get hungry for blood. But Desura might be vanquished, but Unvanquished sure isn't.
No, vanquished. Order 688 is finally here.
Oh, yes. No, so Unvanquished, what is this? Alpha 39 is out, and they're focusing, for the past couple months since their last release, they've been focusing on cleaning up code. Yes, certainly, we keep bringing this up. Their commit bot really, really sucks, because they get the aggregation thing. You get fixed 668, fixed 688.
What is that, Emperor? Order 533? I must run Windows now.
Yeah, a lot of these commit messages don't actually indicate what these patches actually do. But, I mean, It is just a lot of random shit. They did fix some issue with the R300 open source Radeon drivers, so that's a thing. But I mean, it's good that development is going on, and at least they're taking some time to actually clean up their code.
Tell the
so that
beautiful
it's
party
not
people
an
what
unmaintainable
Unvanquished
mess.
is, man. What's it all about?
It is the best community-supported action strategy shooter that people actually play.
Asymmetrical multiplayer.
Because
FPS.
Natural Selection 2 just kind of died.
No, man, the community's right on it. Don't worry.
Absolutely. Yeah, but we've talked about Unvanquished before. You should totally go back, watch some of our old episodes to get a better idea of what that is.
It is actually came from, like, can't even get this Nightmare Fuel to compile, and this is from three people that know
we used to joke.
Yeah, absolutely know their
Unvanquished.
business, and now you can get it up and running, you can play it. Humans versus aliens, go for it. Have a fun time with it, but don't whine about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jython.
Let's
Jython.
play it on
Jython.
Whine. Yeah.
Whine.
So
Le
you may
whine.
remember last week that we talked about Play on Linux moving to version 5, and in doing so, they were going to start using Java or Jython.
No. They were asking for public feedback.
Well, so they say. Because
No,
this
you
was
may
originally-
remember last week I said, well, because French, and I hate to break this to you, the two actual French people I know and communicate with that I consider friends.
Strider.
No, not Strider. Love Strider. Thanks for kicking in to the Patreon, but they're like, French, doing business in France sucks. But what I said is, this wasn't even open for debate. Like, we're going to do Java, and we're going to say, oh, yeah, people can voice their opinions, and we'll think about them. Bzzz, wrong. Apparently, some people that do not want to play the game decided to flood the... Let me translate that for you. A lot of people said, yeah, pants on head's retarded, and they closed the poll because they're like, no, that's a bad idea. But you were saying, man, why is it such a great idea?
This is, well, actually having a poll and listening to the people who use your program would actually have been a great idea, but people were complaining that they don't want to use Java because Java is slow, because Java is this, because Java is a security liability, rah. So now there's an entire thread of comments going on. And down at the very bottom, at least
Pedro, what are the problems about maintainability? Yes, C++ isn't a simple language, but it's a powerful language.
I don't know what I'm looking at right now, but it's all garbage.
Or C++. But when I actually read through the thread, the very last comment at the time, which now is like the third from the bottom, has a little line that says, for security, it only matters if we are intending to use the browser extension, thing we are not going to do.
Hang on,
So
Hamlin
we do
has
not
something
need-
to say. A big project, question mark? Haha. POL is literally just a bunch of scripts that start whine. Don't overestimate your self-worth. The fact you don't even mention whine.
Strider, what the hell were you doing there? But yeah, so they're saying that Play on Linux, the client, will no longer work.
I guess we should
as it
say, what is
previously
Play on
did.
Linux?
Play on Linux worked as a wrapper, as a way to simplify you and how you managed the wine prefixes on your Linux machine or Mac machine, if that was the case. Basically, all I use it for me, is just managing prefixes because it makes everything neatly presented in their little GUI, and it works. But it also allows you to download, say, DLLs. And
Apparently, Java only
redistribute it.
uses 50 mo of disk space.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, it only
Because
uses 50
megabytes has a no.
because we use molecular storage in our computers. Yeah.
But yeah, the current Play on Linux client allows you to download DLLs, fonts, Windows installers, EXEs, MSIs. That's the kind of shit that tends to get infected with viruses. So
Not to put
let's
the
say,
kibosh on that, Pedro, but I think J-Man kind of shut you down on that argument.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
he is.
here's the
He
whole
is
thing.
specifically. Hold on, Pedro. He is specifically talking about the Java browser sandbox plugin. If you are using a Java HTTP client, which you should be using, Apache provides one through their Commons core. This doesn't become an issue. What the issue then becomes and where you actually have to rely on actual proper permissions handling and sandboxing within the context of your application and in the JVM, is ensuring that no arbitrary remote code can get executed. Now, because
Precisely.
there are... What?
That's the thing. That's precisely it. They need some form of sandbox.
But that has nothing to do with the specific feature that he is mentioning right here in this article. Nothing.
Yeah, but the whole thing just screams, okay, so you're not going to sandbox it?
Let me summarize it for you, ladies and gentlemen. Gather around. In 2015, if you have to install Java or OpenJDK on a fucking desktop, run screeching. Don't do it.
To be fair, to play on Linux credit, OpenJDK does come pre-installed on most distributions.
And should be immediately uninstalled.
It's a security liability.
It is, sort of, kind of, but so is basically
Sort of,
every other fucking open source program you run. So, and
this one
ultimately,
especially because it's running Java,
if you read into
which
this
is one
thread,
of the highest, most exploited languges ever.
Oh, you're talking to someone who has to patch Java on a weekly basis.
My biggest argument with the entire thing is, like, why don't you go with something like C?
C++, come on.
Because C are hard. But ultimately, all this thread boils down to is, and I went and I read every single fucking comment in this thread, is people saying, well, I like programming in Python better. Well, I think Qt is a better interface. Well, I like C++ better, and blah, 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 blah. It's people bitching about their preferred programming
I'll tell you
language.
what, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, take that shot with your lackady hairdos. What you should start looking at is, from Strykor in the chat, he has a project called Lutris.net. And I think that's what we're going to start recommending. I mean, if this really does go to, obtains fruition and it becomes a thing, because, yeah, it's going to be a better thing. But don't twitch about it.
Oh, Android. Google Play.
Android. Because nobody really watches it. Even though we're on the iTunes store, nobody really downloads from it.
We're not on the Zune store, though.
I
that
know.
Sounds like
I tried so hard. Fuck you for reminding me. No, Twitch just updated this is like 2 days ago. If you don't know about it, the Twitch app, if your Android device, if it supports it, I mean, it works fine on my Nexus 10, it works fine on my Nexus 7s, both of them first gen, second gen, is really how you want to watch Twitch. I mean, outside of that, you'd have to download FlashFox and try to hit that touch target, and then it would get it's just nightmare fuel, because now Twitch, when you go to it, no matter if you set your browser, be it FlashFox, Chrome, Firefox, I don't know, I can't make up one on the fly, it will instantly jump to the mobile version, it just doesn't work. But with the Twitch client, you can check our shit out after we do it. This is the big thing. This is just a PSA. After the live show, you got to subscribe to our channel, but you can also go back and re-watch it. And this is important, especially for me, because I never get to watch the show while we're doing it. But, as soon as we shut everything down, I go cook, which is like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I re-watch the show because I actually enjoy watching it. And you can just pull up past live streams, which something Twitch has never been able to do, and it does it fantastically well. And if you're wondering how to search for LinuxGameCast on the search, don't search for now show
channels.
Search
for look for people.
And you'll find it. And subscribe to that noise and just watch. It'll be up for 3 days. We don't perma-save them at all, but we
just because they're like fucking 4-hour long shows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So put that in your brain organ.
But, speaking of public service announcements, we'd like to give a public thank you to all the wonderful financially irresponsible people who help make this show possible. And we got a couple new ones this week.
Are we trying to out-transition each other?
Yes,
we do.
It's a transition off. Can you turn left, Ben? Can you?
That's racist.
But yeah, this week we actually have 3 new people who joined. Well, technically 2, since Mr. Ryan V was actually a supporter of the show long ago.
Well, technically 3 because Strider re-upped his, because he kind of dropped off.
Right. Strider did
Also, a
reset
bunch of
his
his payments got declined.
because he moved to America, so he had to make a new credit card. Thanks for that, Strider. But yeah, Mr. Benjamin D, which I have no idea who he is, but Evandro is actually a fellow Portuguese countryman.
I'll tell you who Benjamin D is. He is the D. He is the awesomeness in Benjamin. If I walk around and I see somebody named Benjamin, I'm like, are you Benjamin D? And if he shows me the D, and I'm like, thanks, man, and we give a high five right there. That's exactly who the fuck Benjamin D is, P-Man.
But there's one
It
thing
does have an
note.
interesting portrait on Patreon. I'll give him that. But Mr. Evandro Pires Alves, as he calls himself, if that's his real name, he's actually a fellow countryman. Obrigado. Muito obrigado.
Anyways, our third Patreon this week is Ryan Valance, who
Old
was
Patreon.
one of the PayPal backers, and we do feel the need to bring this up. Ryan, you backed us for $10 an episode. Are you sure you actually want to do this, and you don't want to do $2.50 an
And the
episode?
reason we bring this up, because billions of years ago in the future's past, he was, I mean, for a long time, much love. I mean, you just gotta love this guy. He did the $10 a month.
Access to the show notes.
Yeah, with the Patreon. Not the Patreons,
With
the
the
PayPals. Right.
PayPal.
And you got to make sure that's $10 per show, brother. So if we'll send you an extra note later this week,
But
probably before we charge you.
Yep.
No, I'm kidding. We'll definitely do that just to make sure. I mean, if you want to give us, $10 a show, that's awesome. Because
More
that
power to us.
means
Really awesome.
you get to be on our G Plus Hangout.
It does.
Yes.
And it also means that we're not quite $8 away. No. We are $11 and some odd cents away from doing Portal 2.
That's just crazy talk. Oh,
Oh man, if we get to $100 an episode, you will have to watch you will get the privilege to watch Ven and I attempt to murder each other with portals.
and Pedro, and sometimes I'll just spectate while you and Pedro play. But I got I got a little secret for everybody.
Oh, what was it? What's that?
If we hit 200, we're going to do a Wednesday recap. So in the middle of the week, we're not going to do the full show, but we're going to do some recaps and discuss some of the topics that are coming up on the show. And it's going to be like extra bonus sauce.
200. That's still a ways away, but you guys
Still a
can
ways
make that happen.
away, and I'm not saying every Wednesday it's going to be, me and Jordan and me and Pedro have to bring some different people in, and it's going to be kind of fun. But we're definitely looking at doing that. It's going to be kind of,
Coming up next, we show you our decks, and then Ben throws some chairs at it. Get ready to jack into the Matrix via wireless. This is the Chairquisition of decks by Dreadlocks Limited. It's built on the Unity engine, and you can pick this sucker up for $19.99 wet stinky cashes. What is it? It's a beat 'em up. It's an RPG. It's a shoot 'em up. I don't know what this game is supposed to be, and neither does it. But it's a cyberpunk game where you run around, you punch shit, and nothing happens, and you can't block because their controls don't work. So let's have this fucker face the Chairquisition. Yes, 1 chair means that it's crap, 2 chairs means that it's meh, 3 chairs only shows up once in this review, and 4 chairs. 4 chairs is not something that this is going to see at the end. Of course, we have our categories: Doom, Nicks with the Working, Shiny Sounds, Controls, and Fun? So, let's kick this off. Then, did Dex make with the working?
Over here, Brother Svang, on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS 980 powered 4K displayed box of business. For the most part, yes, it did make with a working, but I do have to ding at a chair for a certain thing. Well, 2 things actually.
What's that?
Well, the first one is that video intro that displays at a whopping, on a good day, maybe on alternate Wednesdays it does a better job, but at 24 FERPs. That's all you get.
Yeah, that's
On and
because of
on.
VSync.
Yep, Pedro's like, that's VSync, and I have to tell you, If I have to worry about VSync on a 2D game, well, something went wrong, Brad. Something went horribly wrong. And I'm not even getting about the unskippable hipster intro that you're forced to watch with all the credits, but for makes for the working, for the fact that it genuinely does start, and it runs, I'm not going to give it 4, I'll give it 3.
All right. Well, I started this up. I had no issues with it running. I mean, well, I'll talk about my visual issues with the game, but for the most part, it ran smoothly. I disabled VSync because I do that on Linux games, and yeah, it ran smoothly. I don't remember the exact frame count, but it was above 60 for sure. So I'll give that 4 chairs.
Yeah.
Oh yes, on the Fedora 21 powered NVIDIA GTX 980 4K powered box of business. By my foot here with the NVIDIA 1090T CPU inside it.
Fair enough. Well, I too like to disable VSync games, especially under Linux, because it's never really worked. Even back when I had a Windows partition, it was iffy because both the calculators I had were on ATI cards, so VSync was never really something that worked as intended. So I always disabled that, and I did it with this game, and everything went super smoothly on the 970 Strix with the AMD FX 8370E running on Corora 21 64-bit. It ran stupidly well, so I'm going to give it 4 chairs.
All right, so that's 3 chairs. So mixed with the working. Up next is the shinny sounds. Then, were you shinned or sounded?
It was actually quite a shin. I mean, if you're looking at this noise, it basically looks like an HD remake of Insert Your Sega Genesis or Mega Drive game here. That's kind of it. You know, it's not hipster pixel, but it has that same overflow of limited palette colors. I do have to say, the overall art style is cohesive. I mean, it sticks together. Nothing, the backgrounds, foregrounds, character model, and all that. But the animations are hella stiff. I mean, your main protagonist, it looks like somebody who had scoliosis?
Scoliosis.
Yeah, and had fusion surgery, and her back is locked like this, and only her arms and legs can run. It's kind of disturbing, to be perfectly honest with you. And then we get to the sounds. It's got a soundtrack. No one pays attention to that. But it does. It does have full voice acting, and, you know, that's nice. That's something that you really want to see, and it's kind of unexpected in an indie game, and it's there. But unfortunately, the writing is absolutely terrible. It's like the technical stuff. Somebody look that up. It's going to be brilliant. So for the shiny and sounds, I'm going to have to give that business 2 chairs. Brad, what do you got?
Yeah, you mentioned that the main character doesn't really move her torso when she walks. It really does. The walk cycle for that really does make it look like she really needs to take a crap. The faux Genesis style is very, very fakey. I will say, yes, the art style is consistent, but it looks like whoever designed the visual aesthetics for this game grabbed like a first edition Shadowrun source book and just kind of went nuts and says, "I'm going to turn this into all the 16 fakey bits." And I mean, Shadowrun has sort of updated their tech level to be more in line with what realistically happens, as much as you can be realistic about orcs and elves and magical hackers, but but here this looks like it's a very 90s cyberpunk aesthetic, and I don't think that particular aesthetic has aged very, very well. The dialogue, yeah, it sucks. The voice actors are passable, and it makes it somewhat listenable, but when they go on the expository dump, you just kind of it sounds like you're listening to a bad episode of Star Trek. So basically any Star Trek Voyager episode. All in all, for the shiny and the sounds, I'll give it 2 chairs. It works, but nothing really, really special.
Yeah, it's a 2D RPG. I can live with, terabad graphics, because the
I don't think the
aesthetic
graphics are terrible bad.
Yeah,
they're just kind of
not.
meh.
They're not hipster pixel.
Yeah, they're good for what they are, and like you said, they are cohesive. They've managed to keep a consistent tone all throughout the 2 hours or so that I played. But I kind of have to agree with you guys. The writing in this game sucks. It's like someone Googled techno jargon and tried to fit as much as possible into the game.
Listen, man, I'm going to create a hacking service with Visual Basic and
yes, I'm going to create a GUI
track the
program in
killer's
Visual
IP in
Basic
Visual
and try
Basic.
and trace back his IP address. But yeah, that's really the only thing that I can complain about in this game, because as far as the audio-visual thing goes, it's okay. It's just the writing that's not very good, so 3 chairs.
All right, so that totals up for 2 chairs on Thingy and the Things. Up next is the Things. Ven, did you feel like you were in Thing?
behold the things. All right, hang on. Dig the X-Clone controller out of its hole of misery. What they call your mom.
I thought that's what you called your butt.
No. Here it is. Okay. Now, when I start playing a game, I started up, you gotta remember, I mean, this whole idea of controller support, new to me. Because I've been only playing Linux games since 2000. Well, when did we start getting decent games? About 2001, 2002. But I've been on Linux 1995. But I reach over and I usually do this. It's kind of like, flicking a teat. Male or female.
And then when you're done masturbating, then what happens?
Then I pick it back up again. I mean, it only takes a few seconds, to be honest with you. But it didn't move. And I was like, okay, if it moves, I'm going to play it with a controller. I'm going to check this business out. And guess what? After, last week, when we covered this game's launch, J-Man said, you can't block. And I was like, oh, well, J-Man just doesn't understand how to block, it's the whole thing, hashtag ovens. And you can. And you hit escape, and you're like, what? And it shows you this beautiful display of, get ready for this, a DualShock, like PS2 controller. I didn't know, I didn't have a witty retort for that. I was like, oh, are you being stupid on purpose? Really? I'm guessing you're having to use X input to make this work. And that's your dice. So nothing on your controller organ will work, and it's completely unremappable because fuck SDL2. They don't understand that, Brad. And initially, it was like 10-15 minutes in, and I was like, you know what? If you show me a controller and you let me try to, let me get 10 minutes into the game with a controller, then it's like, well, it doesn't work, fuck you. I'm going to stop the game. I'm never going to play it again. But that's lies. Because I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that for you. I couldn't do that for our Patreons. It's like, I have to give this at least a full on of time. So I tried it with the keyboard and the gerbil. And that is even more busted than the busted controls on the gamepad. The default layout is just fucking mental. It makes no sense. Maybe you could remap it, but here's what you got to look at. They want you to play a platforming game. I was like, I can wrap my mind around that. I can play a platformer begrudgingly with a keyboard and gerbil, but then they introduce, then you got to learn how to fight. Not just punch, but block and kick and roll and duck. With a keyboard, fuck that noise. That's just busted all around, and I'm going to give it 1 chair. J-Man, thoughts?
Yeah, no. So I originally plugged in this guy. It's had some issues in the past. So, like I said, the block button doesn't work. If you want to go into cyberspace and hack the killer's IP address using Visual Basic, you can't do that either because they expect you to press down the left analog stick.
Mine actually worked with the right hat controller.
See, it didn't work at all for me, and I tried with the Hori controller, and I also tried with, and I'm waiting for the lights to come on, Turbo Seizure controller! Oh god, it's so bright! I know, right? And when it rumbles, it flashes. That's brilliant.
Epileptic
anyways.
seizures.
It will give epileptic
That thing
people
makes
seizures.
Thor jealous.
I know, right? I know the second. This isn't even my controller. This is my roommate's controller. But the second I found out that it vibrates or it flashes when it vibrates, I knew that would be so
second you found out it vibrated, that was a different story.
Far removed from my original point. Yeah, the controls don't work for half things. You're supposed to be able to zoom in by pressing the up button on the D-pad. No, you actually have to press the left button on the D-pad because that's a thing that happens. No one actually tried. I don't think anyone actually tested this game with a controller, or at least an Xbox controller, because half this shit doesn't work. I mean, it's playable if you can't block. You have to be creative with your ducking and your rolling, but that is a little too much effort for most people when you figure that, you know, your controller doesn't work. Didn't even bother trying it with the keyboard because I cannot platform on a keyboard and mouse. My brain
it's more insulting than it not working at all. It kind of works and leads you to believe that you can play it.
Yes, but ultimately you can't because you can't block, and that is critical in some of these fights. So, 1 share for that. So sad.
Yeah, Jordan, I'm willing to bet that they did not try it with an Xbox controller under Linux. That is pretty much money in the bank of a bet right there. I honestly didn't even try to play it with the controller. I played with a keyboard because I was looking at the keyboard mappings and I'm like, oh, they actually got the directional keys mapped to movement. All right, so I'll just play it with the keyboard. And then it came to that part after you escape the bar and you're talking to the bar owner and the hacker guy that's kind of looks Chinese but really isn't. I don't know.
Racist.
And they say... once you talk to the entity of cyberspace, I can't remember his name right now. It says push the tilde key. Something weird is it says push the tilde key in order to go into cyberspace.
The tilde key?
And yeah, so I can't push the tilde key. Nope. Okay, so the tilde key on the US keyboards is actually where the
it's left to the number 1.
backslash. Yeah, it's where the backslash is on Portuguese keyboards. So I push that. Nope. Hold shift, push that. Nope, that won't do it either. I tried every single key on my keyboard, and guess what? It was the Alt key.
Yep.
Because that makes sense. But that aside, there's actually a slight delay between when you press a key and something happens in game. It's not that big of a delay, but it's enough that you'll notice, and I actually missed more than a couple of jumps and had enemies kick the shit out of me because I could not duck away in time. So even though I can reassign the controls, bonus chair for that, having input delay in 2015 is pretty bad.
Well,
so it gets 2 chairs.
All right, you're going to give it 2 chairs. I'll give you something fun. Yeah. While I was playing with a keyboard, it switched automatically from up, down, left, right to WASD.
Oh, brilliant.
But 2 chairs.
But ultimately, that doesn't matter because it's still 1 chair for control thanks to mine and Ben's scores. And finally, fun. You know, Ben, I'm almost positive you had a blast with this game, so why don't you just expound on that to lovely people?
Well, I can barely hold on to the mic to explain to you how fun this is. Snap into a Slim Jim. All right. Really, your first experience with this game is you need to hack a firewall to disable the lifts, elevators. That's what they're called now. And you do that by moving your device over and clicking on it several times. Right. Insult my intelligence. Brilliant. Got it. Then you gotta ask, how big is your fucking hitbox? Giggity. Because I'm in a fight, and one of the dudes is up here at the top of the stair organs, and I'm at the bottom of the stair organs.
Were there 5 of them?
I wish there were 5 dudes. I'm 1 step up, and I'm like, all right, maybe I'm going to try something sneaky and punch him in the shins, you know, be a bit devious. And we're talking like from here to here, and the dude like, boom, curb stomps me all the way over. I was like, that's not a very good hitbox setup.
Delay.
And this all leads to the save system that is based upon map regions because that's why. I got noped after 20 minutes in a region. I'm there because it's like these map regions, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this. And I'm like, oh, finally, okay, I get to this, and I was like, I'm going to get this guy. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to restart. Then it started me way back at the fucking other thing. So it noped me, and I noped it. And you got to remember, this came out of early access a few weeks back, and they are still patching game-breaking bugs. Not little things. No, not like, oh, I can't get this one. It's like, I can't complete this part of the level because it's completely busted. And they're trying to spin it as, hey, hello, thanks for the money, and it's not even like, we're working really hard to try to fix this shit that really shouldn't be released right now. They're like, be grateful, and hi, boys and girls, and here's a new patch that makes the game almost semi-playable, because fuck you, that's why. And because fuck you, that's why, there's your chair.
All right. So, I mean, this game had some potential. There are good elements in there that I think it's a bit, it's a wee criminal that they didn't get taken advantage of.
It looks like a really good early access game.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the main problems are this. The controls are slapdash, and it really just exacerbates all the problems of the game by like tenfold. Gameplay ultimately amounts to running around talking to random people, getting random missions, and then hoping eventually you come across what you actually need, or something or someone you actually need to talk to in order to complete said missions. And a lot of them just boil down to go talk to this guy, who then tells you to go talk to this guy, who then goes tell you to talk to this guy, and so on and so on and so on. And with the crap dialogue, it really doesn't help the game anymore anyways. And but at the very least, you can buy condoms because you're going to be having sex with all the prostitutes there. Stay safe, kids. This game gets 2 chairs, if only because it had the potential to be a good game. Maybe in a couple months, once they actually pull their heads out of their asses and sort all the issues with it, it could be a good game. But for now, do not buy.
LGC cares.
It had potential, yes, but
it still has potential, but
it needs that qualifier, but it is an RPG.
You could say that if it were still in early access.
Yeah.
Jordan, you can't judge an early access game.
When you make an RPG, you're riding on 2 things out of the 3 that make a game, which is aesthetics, narrative, and mechanics. RPGs rely the most on narrative and mechanics. The mechanics in this game are taking a big hit because of the controls, like Jordan said, and their general unresponsiveness. The narrative, while it's usually divided between the plot, which is the NPCs talking and what you read in game, and the player-driven narrative. Like, say, if you start playing Half-Life 2, it's not exactly an RPG, but since you don't get massive text dumps or lore dumps on you, you are driving the narrative, per se. You are the narrative, so to speak. And in this game...
You are the Kwisatz Haderach!
In this game, you just get narrative dumps, consistent narrative dumps. You talk to an NPC, and he gives you lines and lines and lines of techno jargon. And like Ven's already established, the writing is cringeworthy. It's really bad. 1 chair.
Alright, so that's 1 chair for fun. And if we tally this whole mess up, we get 1 chair for Dex, which is ultimately what it amounts to. Dick. Final thoughts?
1999. I'm sorry. That was like a reflex reaction when you said that. It really was. This reeks of something that should have baked a little bit longer. And when I mean a little bit, probably, I don't know, until they got the critical bugs worked out of the game. Not
controller support.
No. I want to pick something a little less. Making the game actually function as a game. If they work those little bugs out, then release it. And they didn't. I don't know why they didn't. And they're more than welcome to come on the show. I mean, if you're watching this, you give us keys and you want to give us some feedback, like why you did not stay in early access. Because these are not Linux-specific problems. These are cross-platform problems of the game just being busted. And I know it really sucks when somebody's like, I played this and it just doesn't work. You're like, but we poured our hearts and soul. And I was like, yeah, but then you took it out of early access. So the second anybody exchanges goods and services for this, they're going to be angry at $19.99. It is almost insulting people's intelligence to want to buy this business. Don't. Wait 6 months, see if it improves, catch it on sale maybe, if they had proper controller support, question mark.
Yeah, if it comes out in a humble bundle, maybe.
I mean, I could see picking this game up if it were like anywhere in the range of $5 to $7, but really only if they fix the really the glaring thing is, and I could forgive a lot more for this game if the controls weren't so busted, but that just it's like poking the wound. It's rubbing salt in it. It doesn't help anything.
Well, that does remind me of something.
I can suspend disbelief for the shitty 90s cyberpunk techno babble.
Mm-hmm.
I can deal with the expository dumps. There was just one stupid mission I got dragged into where I have to listen to this entire sob story about how this woman needs a new spleen and her son can't give it to him and blah, 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 blah. And then I just kept mashing A and left because, whatever, I'll bring you your goddamn organs. Where's the nearest homeless person? But...
Well, here's something I want to ask you, Jay, man. I mean, with all these
Go
multiple question shits, it doesn't matter what you answer and what you do. It just ends in the same outcome.
It really doesn't.
Yep.
Unless there's some like dialogue NPC choice system that doesn't really get brought up until a later game. It just really lets you decide, do I want to be an asshole to these people? Okay, they're still going to help me. Whatever.
I mean, that's clearly like the first time you engage an NPC. You can click anything you want. It always ends on a fun.
Yep. Also, finally, one thing I wanted to mention in Shiny and Sounds that I didn't get a really chance to mention, but I just remembered. The cutscenes, I found them a little bit weird just because it's sort of like a motion comic. They have the frame and they have people talking over it, and then they'll zoom into characters when they talk or whatnot. I don't really know if I like that or not. I'm sort of on the fence with that. Anyways, $19.99, don't pick it up. $5, maybe check it out. Pedro?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm surprised you didn't try it with your golden DualShock controller that you
The shield.
It's well, it's plugged into the Steam box and
perfect Steam box experience.
No, it really isn't. And Wrench Turner in Chat Realm actually said he wanted this game to be good. As did I, Wrench Turner. As did I. When I saw, can't remember if it was Total Biscuit or Jim Sterling actually playing the game, I'm like, wow.
One of those British men you're in love with.
Yes. It's the two of them and Yahtzee. But
there's also a Brit living
I was
in
actually
Australia.
looking at it and I'm like, wow, that looks like a proper game. I want to play it. But it's in early access, so I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to wait till it's out. And now it's out, and it crushed my hopes. It really did. And it's far too pricey. I mean, $20 or 20 euros, which amounts to like $24 nowadays.
All right.
20 euros for something that's barely even functional. You can sort of interact with it. Before
we close this out, we want to thank the developers for giving us the keys. That's good on you. And, you know, nope. In their favor, they looked at us and said, oh, shit, they're going to give our game the business, and they still gave us the keys. So we have nothing but respect for the developers.
And
Coming
we don't
up
like
next,
shitting on games.
we are going to charge $5,500 for us to get to our hate mail segment.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, our hate mail section ran a little late if you're watching us live. If you're not watching us live, shame on you. You should be. And if you're watching this in the recording, mind the chirping birds, because it's actually daytime here now, and they just woke up. Yeah. There it is. But, as usual, if you'd like to get in touch with us, go on over to LinuxGameCast.com, push the contact button on the nav bar, fill out the whole damn thing. And remember, if you're trying to promote a game, a Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Steam Greenlight, whatever, if you're trying to promote anything and you already have your game on Steam, send us some keys. If you don't have your game on Steam, send us, I don't know, a zip, a tar.gz, whatever you want to call it. Just send us something that we can play your game in. Anything at all. We will not.
Up first, Nathan Weber. He writes blogs. Hello, we are Go Shark Games, an indie game developer based in Italy. Last month, we released Blockstorm on Steam Early Access, published by Indigo. Blockstorm is multiplayer first-person voxels. We don't pay for good reviews. You don't say. Make the video if you enjoy playing. If you're interested, I can provide you with a mighty Steam key to try the game.
A Steam key. That's the problem right there.
Well, actually not, because this is one of those... I didn't get around to checking our fucking private YouTube things. Like, oh, sent this to us a long time ago. Half of me is like, okay, that's what I told you, man. I was like, the game's stupidly cheap. It's like $4 fucking quid, and I played it when it's open demo thing. It's moderately fun. We might even play it this evening. Who knows? Then again, you want to give us a copy of the game? We'll definitely take a look at it. I played it when it was free to play. Just it's like, what's this about? A voxel shooter? And I was like, yeah, it's kind of fun. Mainly, it was kind of fun because the kids that were in there was like, because it has crafting. And the kids that were in there were trying to like craft defenses and shit. And I was just running around sniping their asses.
Of course, it is a voxel graphics game, so if it's not ripping off Minecraft, it's doing something wrong.
J-Man.
I never really tried out this game. I'm hesitant to try out anything voxel-based.
These guys, Cody Cooper writes, cheers!
Axiom Verge! Any chance it faces the chair soon? Well, we should probably talk to Flibbit about it, but I don't see why not. Ben seems to like it enough.
Yeah, I liked it enough. I mean, I was genuinely one... First in a long time that I went all the way through. Now I didn't speed run it. It took me like 12 hours. But then again, it's 19.9 wet stinky caches. And the only reason it's that price right now is because all the hype behind it.
Yeah.
So P-Man, what do you think? Maybe we'll wait for some of the hype to die down, let it catch it on sale, maybe?
Maybe. I did send them an email. They have not replied, so I don't know.
There's no they. It's a one guy. One guy
it's just
made
one
that
person.
entire
Okay.
game.
It is worth mentioning that Mr. Cody Cooper, for those of you who listen to Linux for the rest of us, you know him.
Love him.
That is the Super Coop.
With door-to-door, Stephen McLaughlin.
Yes. And so those guys are actually pretty awesome. They had the brilliant idea of inviting Ven to one of their podcasts at one time, and then Ven kind of volunteered me instead.
Your ass.
and
Minion.
And that resulted in a podcast that we often like to make fun of because it shows the lung capacity of our Portuguese compatriot over there. But yes, Axiom Verge. We might be throwing some chairs at it. Who knows? Up next!
Yeah. Mr. Mango, paying for Unity Linux quote-unquote ports. Has anyone actually downloaded Unity Engine and maybe tried a demo or example game that's available? Press export and see if it's just that easy? I am curious because it's pissing me off if that's the case.
No, I need to put this in context. I posted, if you follow us on the G+, I posted about that game. I guess about 4 weeks ago,
iGladiator,
they contacted us directly and said,
Yep.
"Hey, Brad, we need to port this game to our Unity game to Linux from our mobile port that we've already ported to Windows by clicking export. But we're going to need about $7,000 for that. Could you hook us up? Mention our Kickstarter and all that." So I think like 2 days ago, I posted on G Plus as like, "Pedro, J-Man, I don't think they're gonna make it."
they had like $17 in total.
It was like
from their
35
Kickstarter.
quid. They had total.
But I mean, really, the issue behind that was, again, it was a Unity game. They said, "Do you folks believe in Linux gaming? Then you need to give us $5,000 to enable us to press a button and do some basic functional
this is the
testing."
crux of the problem, because Mr. Mango
no,
asked
wait,
us...
wait.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm actually looking at the Kickstarter page for iGladiator right now. The funding was canceled 1 hour before before the campaign was supposed to be over. They canceled it. They had $40.
And that shows you that the Linux gaming community has sort of grown up from their infancy a couple years ago.
Well, Mr. Mango-san, one of our long-time backers. Sir, good sir. Probably one of the friends that I'm going to gather when we go to pay a visit to the people at Carmageddon on the White Isles. And just saying, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
And anyways,
let me finish this. My fucking
you interrupted me.
No. Oh, I thought I switched from Pedro to me, not you. Go ahead.
Anyways, I was just saying that, I mean, clicking export, not worth $5,000. That's it. Moving on. Ben, you were saying.
I was saying, I mean, this is definitely one of the confusing things, because he gave in, he's like, do developers really do that? It was a genuine question, and it's like, you have no idea, Mango-san. You have no idea. Not only do they do that, they give us LinuxGameCast zip files showing not only did they didn't test it on Linux, they have no idea how permissions work. Like, oh yeah, here's the demo.
But then, why do you need users and groups?
Why do you need an executable flag on a file? That doesn't make any sense.
And on that bombshell, let's cue the music, because you can always find us around 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, Eastern D time, whatever that means. It probably means the D. Safest bet, look up the time in Athens, Georgia for 9:30, and that's where we're going to be every Saturday night. Chat Realm joining in, creating the madness that is Linux Gamecast and part of Cocaine Voltron. I'm Vinstone. You can always find me on the Twitter nuts there, plus Vinstone on the G Pluses. And where does Chris Fisher follow you?
Where does Chris Fisher follow me? Chris Fisher follows me at The Burning Fool on Twitter. He finally acknowledged back. Oh my god! And you can find me on Google Plus at Plus Jordan Svang.
Well, Chris Fisher also follows me on Twitter at unaccounted for, or plus Peter Mateos on Google Plus. And yes, he actually does follow me on Google Plus. It's amazing.
Yes.
You're just looking at me because I'm in daylight, isn't it?
I'm just waiting for you to explode, baby.
Yeah.
Well, I've been willing to explode the entire episode, and nothing's come of it.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just not trying hard enough.
When you explode, you just take a poop.
It's true.
I've been farting like a lunatic, so no spontaneous
Farting
combustion
like
here.
a lunatic, man. That's a ska
Show
band.
title. 5 dudes.